All right, on this lesson, we're going to configure BTP, yes, but we're going to encompass a couple of things that we've done already. We're going to create some VLANs, we're going to tweak spanning tree, and then we'll get into the VTP, and we're actually going to trunk some ports as well. So there's a couple of things that we're going to do here. All right, so it's going to be a nice little lab that encompasses some of the things we've already learned to do. But it's not the big lab that we're going to do towards the end of the switching course. It just so happens, because when I pulled this out here, it just so happened that that is the root bridge. As you can see, this is the block port right here. Okay. It decided to disappear there. Control Z, no Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. All right, let me, oh, there it is. All right, that happened. Port 21, I believe. Yep. Okay. It just so happens that, hey, that's a root bridge, but we're going to make it the root bridge anyway. We're going to tweak that. And you'll see as we go along what we're going to do. Let me move it this way so you can see it. Now, I have a router here because this is the ones that we're going to use. This same lab is the one that we're going to use to practice our inter-VLAN routing. But it's going to be very basic. Once we get to the bigger lab, you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, so let's go to the top switch. Let's make that switch the root bridge. First, let's name it. All right, so let's maximize the screen. Enable, config, conft, host name. Let's just call it core 1. All right, so I'm going to manipulate spanning tree. And as you can see, I have VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. It was there before, now it's not. Okay, so let me go ahead and just let me copy this real quick. That's when I did that whole magic finger trick that everything disappeared. Okay, not a problem. 20. 20. All right, so we have VLAN 10, VLAN 20. So when we do the span tree, we got to include that. We got to include VLANs 1, 10, and 20. If you don't do that, you run into the issue that, hey, all your ports might turn green and you're going to have a switching loop. Remember that. So I'm going to go here, maximize again. Let's do the spanning tree that we did before. So we do it, spanning tree, VLAN 1, 10, 20, priority 0. Now that's not going to do anything. This one's always been the root bridge regardless, but we're making sure that this is the root bridge. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the VLANs on the core switch. I'm going to create the VLANs on the core switch. Because what I want to happen is for those VLANs to propagate down to all the other switches. Make life a whole lot easier. So let's do VLAN 10, and we'll use the same name, faculty. VLAN 20, name, students. But we're not going to assign them. We're just creating them on there. So let's verify. Let's exit, exit. Let's do a copy run start. Look at me doing the proper commands. Look at that. All right, we're going to do show VLAN. All right, we have our faculty and we have our students. Let's take a look at our spanning tree. Show spanning tree. And there is our spanning tree right there. Priority 1. All right, because we put 0. Remember, this is the root bridge. All right, all designated ports. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to play around with the VTP. So we're going to make, this is already a VTP server. It wouldn't have allowed me to create these VLANs if it wouldn't have been. So I'm going to give it a VTP domain name of Cisco. So let's go to global configuration. I'm going to go VTP domain Cisco. So it's telling you, hey, we changed the domain name from nothing to Cisco. How do we verify that? Well, we exit once, we do show. Okay. Show VTP stat, right? And we see here that the domain now is Cisco. There's 2, our default VLANs were 5, now there's 7. All right, so we've manipulated things on there. So we created VLANs. Well, we manipulated spanning tree. We created VLANs and named them. Now we changed the VTP name to Cisco. Now what we need to do is trunk ports. And this is the reason why I picked these specific ports, 22, 23, and 24. So I can use a range command, make it very simple. So those 3 ports I need to trunk. Because remember, VLANs 2 through 1001 can only go through trunk ports. And VTP is the one that's looking or sending information on those trunk ports. So you must trunk the ports going from switch to switch or switch to router. All right, so let's go ahead and trunk those ports using the range command. So we're going to go to config T, int range, F0/22-24. And then we go switch, port, mode, trunk. Right? And we do a control Z, and we'll do a WR. And look at show int trunk. You can only see 22 and 23. You don't see 24 because 24 is plugged into the router's interface, which is administratively down. That's why you see the red dots. So you're not going to see that until that turns on the router. But you still need to trunk 24 anyway. So once you match the encapsulation on the router, everything will work just fine. So remember you had to trunk those ports. Cool. So we have our VLANs, right? We did the spanning tree. We did the VTP. Now we're going to come down here. Now I'll change this from PC0. I'm going to name this faculty over here so we know this is the faculty switch. And this will be the student, or the student side, right? The student side. All right, so let's go to this switch. Let's name it. Config T, host name, faculty. Now what I'm going to do here, remember I said one server, operating mode for only one server, the rest clients. So I'm going to go VTP, mode client. Now what I want to verify, hey, did those VLANs come down? Do show VLAN. Awesome, they did. They came down. I trunked the ports. We're in the same VTP domain, right? Because that came down right along with it. Do show VTP stat. There it is, Cisco. Okay, so we do that. So hey, cuts our work in half. All we really need to do is just assign the VLANs. Assign the VLANs. So let's go ahead and do that. So we named the switch, we change it to client mode, which means we can create them, but we don't need to because they came down. All right, this is the faculty, so it's in VLAN 10. So we're going to go to ports, we'll do a range, we'll do int F0/1-15. Oops, I forgot the range command. Int range F0/1-15. And then we're going to do, remember, it has to be access ports because they're by default dynamic. So switch port, TCH, mode, access. Now you can assign the VLAN. Switch port, TCH, switch port, access, VLAN 10. Alrighty, and while we're here, since we know we're only going to plug in end devices, why not turn off spanning tree? Spanning tree port fast. And we guard against it. Spanning tree, BPDU guard, enable. So you can see, you combine a whole bunch of things together. So we're going to do a control Z, WR. Let's take a look at show VLAN. And there we have our faculty VLAN that is active on ports 1 through 15. And if you were to take a look at the show start and take a look at the interfaces, you see that we have port fast, BPD guard enable, all those things are on there. Now we haven't done no IP addresses or anything like that. That'll be left for the big lab. But we're essentially done with this particular switch. Now we're going to go to the student switch. And we'll do the same exact thing. So you see how VTP helps us by being in the same domain, right? By changing the modes from server to client and receiving updates. All these things are important because it can cut your work in half. Enable, config T, host name, what's this? Students. All right. Now we go VTP, mode, client. Let's verify that the VLANs did come down. Do show VLAN. And they sure did. I'll do a control C. So now we'll do the range command again. Int range F0/1-15. Just a number that I always pick. So now we assign the VLANs, but before we got to change it to access mode. Switch, I'm going to tab, switch port mode, access. Switch port access, VLAN 20. Right? Now we do a spanning tree, port fast, and then we do a spanning tree, BPD guard enable. Done deal. Done deal. That is how cool VTP is, because the virtual trunking protocol, show VTP stat, the virtual trunking protocol, we're all in the same domain, right? We're the client switches, we'll be receiving updates. If our revision number, however, for whatever reason, changes to a higher number, because you took it out and you configured something, you put it back in, and now the revision number is higher than the rest, that could wipe out all your other VLANs. So you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful when doing that. But you see how easy that was. You see how easy that was. We created the VLANs up here on our core switch by trunking the ports using a VTP domain name and changing the mode to client on the bottom switches. It actually propagated everything down. So it cut our work in half. And then we just did our normal stuff that we would do with turning off spanning tree and then guarding against it. And again, this is just part of it. All right, this is just the beginning. But you see that VTP is extremely important because it will watch these VLANs as it goes across and tag them correctly. If there's a mismatch somewhere, then believe me, VTP will let you know. VTP will let you know. Because if I were to change, let's say manually, I would change the VTP domain name on one of those client switches by changing it to server and changing the name, then you will have immediately, you'll see a VTP domain name mismatch, and you don't want to do that. But that's what VTP is. So again, just to show you one last time, well, it's not really last time, but be very familiar. Know that command, show VTP status. Show VTP status. And again, the revision number, the operating mode, the domain name, and then this number down here. Who was the last switch that modified you? All right? Because don't forget your handy dandy show CDP neighbor detail. All right? Or let's do the simple one. Show CDP neighbor. Well, the detail will give you the IP address. We have no IP addresses. But you can see that, hey, here's my core 1 and here's my faculty. Those are the two switches that I'm directly connected to. All right? So that's important. That's important to be very aware of that VTP status and using it in combination with the show CDP neighbor or show CDP neighbor detail if you're looking for a particular IP address. There's your VTP. I'll see you in the next one.